Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about interior design mistakes making your home look cheap. Oh, I'm sorry to have to be the one to tell you this. Actually, I'm not really sorry because it's kind of fun for me to make these videos, but yeah, we're just gonna talk about things that maybe making your home look cheap or not. Like again, some people love this video because I did one of these a little while, like 6 months ago or so, and people loved it. A lot of people didn't. Those people have no sense of humor and are a little bit too sensitive about their choices that they make in their own home. Listen, it's just stuff, okay? You don't have to take any of this seriously. You don't have to take any of my advice. You don't have to listen, okay? Just do what you want. But maybe if you're thinking my home might look a little bit cheap, then maybe you've got some ideas in this video that you might want to take into consideration. Also, here is a list of all the things I mentioned in that other video, which I will link at the end of this one. So if you see something that is maybe making your home look cheap that's not in this video, maybe it's in that one. Let's get going. Okay, I know we're focusing on objects that make your home look cheap, but I also want to emphasize how having the wrong commerce platform can cheapen the experience for your customers. I love that segue. Okay, luckily with today's sponsor, Shopify, you'll never need to worry about that. I've been a long time Shopify customer, using them from the juice business that I used to own and then I sold years ago to a fixtures company that actually was the inspiration behind this YouTube channel. So the reason I've been able to start and grow and ultimately even sell businesses is because of how much easier it is and how quick it is to be able to actually set up a business with Shopify. There are fantastic templates available that I've used myself, and it's so easy to set up from your products to your drag and drop sort of your product images in there. You can manage your inventory, you can manage your payments, so you can actually start taking orders really quickly. There is no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be here on this actual YouTube channel if I hadn't taken a chance and pursued starting my own business. So if you're ready to start your own business with Shopify, check out the link in the description to get started with Shopify today. Now let's get back to those things that are making your home look a little bit cheap. Okay, first up on my list is gonna be inconsistent flooring. First of all, let's address the hexagon, that sort of fade away ombre sort of hexagon situation that we saw in sort of 2017 to 2019. Remember those? Okay, this is an example of that, but honestly, I see this all over the place in terms of people not respecting transition points when it comes to their flooring. So these little hexagon things are a really good example because there's no rhyme or reason to when these things sort of stop and end, and that makes them look funny. And it also happens in other rooms as well. And it's especially true oftentimes in open concepts where people don't really know where their rooms end and they don't really know what to do, so they just kind of haphazardly have these kind of lines where they switch from one transition to the next. It's really important to know sort of where your transition points are in your space. Some good examples would be 1, an archway, 2, a doorway. That's a super obvious one, right? We know this to be true. It seems natural to us. When you go into a bathroom, you're entering into a new room. There's a door, hopefully not a barn door or something, because those are not good for bathrooms. We've talked about this, sound and smells, okay? But you're walking into a bathroom, there's a door, right? There's a hinge, there's a closed door. You expect there to be different flooring. You might have hardwood on one side, you might have tile on the other. That's okay. And the reason that makes sense is because you're entering into a new room. There's a clear transition point moving from one room into the next. That is true for the kitchen and dining. Less true in an open concept, which can sometimes be a challenge, but in a closed concept home, you see a lot, or a traditional concept, whatever you want to call it, you see these different transition points where you're moving from dining into kitchen, from dining into family room or living room or whatever the case may be, right? And we see these in sort of archways, right? Where you kind of have these moments where you feel like you're moving from one room into another. Could even be something like the line of where a peninsula sort of ends in a kitchen that signals, yes, you are moving from one room into the other. That's why I had in actually my own apartment where I just had a peninsula and then I had sort of an area that just signaled, yes, you are entering into a different room. Those are the moments, those transition points are when you're going to be switching your flooring options if you so choose. So again, you're moving from hardwood into tile, or you're moving from carpet into tile or carpet into hardwood or whatever your choice may be, or you're just switching from a different color or a different material choice or whatever the case. This is where you should be swapping it out. What's making your home look really cheap is that oftentimes people don't respect these barriers and these transition areas, and instead, rather than taking the cues from the architectural sort of transitions that you're kind of moving in between spaces, you just sort of haphazardly change materials on a whim. I see this a lot and it never looks good because it's quite clearly not following the architecture of the space. You're not following and respecting that you're entering into different rooms. And that is where you want to change materials. You don't just want to change materials just because you feel like it. These transition points matter for lots and lots of different things. They matter for things like tile as well. When you're transitioning from the edge of your countertops, it's nice to close them out rather than just sort of leaving the tile kind of hanging in the middle of nowhere. Never really looks good. It's good to recognize things like paint, for example. If you want to paint from one room to the next, you don't know where to do, follow those transition points. That's going to be the moment moment where you're gonna wanna be able to change color, change material, change flooring, whatever. Honoring those transition points is important. If you're not, and it's haphazard, it's making your space look really cheap. Okay, next, making your home look cheap is gonna be faux luxury. I know, it's hard because we all want those luxurious things. Not all of us, some of us don't care, and that's cool too, but like, you know, a lot of us do. You know, we like the look, but we don't really oftentimes have the budget to do it. And I am personally of a believer in getting things that you can actually afford that are wonderful and are fabulous and are not necessarily luxury, but they're just real, honest materials. Things like wood are materials that, generally speaking, are not incredibly expensive. Obviously, it depends on the wood species and where you live and you know, obviously the craftsmanship and whatever. But that is a material choice that is actually, you know, not that expensive, right? Cotton, linen, these are really great materials that are oftentimes not that expensive. But there are some materials that just are, okay? They're rare. I'm sorry, but oftentimes a rare marble is going to be more expensive than some other sort of material choices that you may choose. So if you're in the market for a dining table and you really want a marble dining table, but you're like, I just don't have the money for it, or you want a marble, but it's a particularly rare form of marble and therefore gonna be more expensive than other forms of marble that are gonna be much more accessibly priced, getting into a material that you actually can afford, or you can thrift something, or that is actually like a good quality material that you're gonna be really happy with and that is also in your budget. But reaching for things that are really, like you see on social media and you go crazy for them because you're like, I want the look of that, but you can't afford it. So instead, you go with a faux version. There are some decent faux out there, but for the most part, I find that a lot of them just end up looking really cheap because it's becoming like so obvious that it's faux. And rather than choose a quality option that is maybe in a more humble material, instead you choose something that is the faux version of a luxurious material. That, in my opinion, is oftentimes a mistake. It just means that you're trying to emulate something that just isn't there. And it just never really looks good, in my opinion. People can always tell, and I'm sorry, but that marble contact paper that you put on your countertops might work in a pinch, and it might work for like 6 months, or it might work to flip a place, or whatever your plan is, or whatever. And I'm here to tell you, it is not the same as having marble countertops. So instead, get laminate countertops that are gonna be durable, that are gonna be nice, that are gonna be perfectly fine, or a butcher block or something like that, that's gonna be great and you're gonna enjoy and you're gonna be proud of and it's gonna look awesome, rather than desperately pining for these marble countertops you can't afford, so then you turn around and get the faux version of. Get something you can actually afford that you're proud of, that are gonna be, you know, durable and wonderful and fabulous for years to come, rather than some of these faux options just because they see them on social media. So I'm sorry, but you know, the epoxy resin countertops or whatever that you're pouring on there, they're not fooling anybody. And in my opinion, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but it's better coming from me, an anonymous guy on the internet, than your friends, that it's maybe making your place a little bit cheap. Okay, next up on my list is going to be plain walls. I just moved in here not long ago, okay? Leave me alone. I see on the comment section like, your place isn't that great. Cool, you don't have to like it. You don't live here either. But anyway, listen, your walls. Walls are the backdrop to the space. So I think that it's always nice to really respect that backdrop, because no matter how great your furniture is, you're sometimes like, what's missing? And it's oftentimes just having things on the artwork or moldings or interesting paint choices or wallpaper or whatever that is going to make that backdrop feel a lot more interesting, because that's ultimately, except for the furniture obviously lives within the space, but this is where your eye is gonna stop. It's always gonna stop at the edge of those walls. And so having interesting walls, and I did an entire video on walls, you guys, so like I'm ready for you, goes a long way to make your space feel a lot more interesting. And sometimes when walls are just really bare and there's nothing interesting going on, it can sometimes make your place look really cheap. So personally, I would say opt for more interesting walls, choose those different wall treatments. Again, you've got paint, you've got tile, you've got wallpaper, you've got moldings, like you've got lots of different types of moldings. We could just sit here I could do entire videos just on moldings, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things that you can do. And of course, the obvious one, which is art. If you don't wanna do any paint, you don't wanna do anything, there's fantastic art that's out there that can do a really great job of making your home feel a lot more interesting and represent you and show your own personality into your space, which I do believe always makes a space look more interesting because it's personal to the person that lives there, which means that it's not really gonna look as cheap as if you just put in some generic stuff, or dare I say, nothing at all. Next up on my list is gonna be wrong rug orientation. Rug orientation. Sometimes you see this, right? You see the rug is like, oh, why did they put the rug this way? That's an interesting choice. You know what I mean? Have you ever walked into a person's place and they've done that in their living room? It's like always like, okay, it's not about necessarily the size of the rug. I'm talking about the orientation, how they chose to put it in their space. And you might say, what is the right orientation for your place? And I would say that the first thing to do is to really understand where your focal points are in your room, which could be a fireplace, could be a media console, could be a window, could be a piece of art, could be whatever you so choose it to be. Creating that focal point and then designing, especially in the living room we're talking about here, a conversational area around it. So often you see chairs and you see couches and you see chairs over here and you're like, this room doesn't work. Why are all these people sitting in random corners, or dare I say their furniture is pressed up against the wall, when really what we're trying to do is use a living room that's actually built for human beings to converse and actually interact with one another. What a concept. That's what we're trying to create in the living room, right? So start with that. Make sure you understand the flow when you walk into a space. It creates an open flow so that people can actually are welcome into the space. I don't usually love when you walk into a living room and bam, you're faced with a giant couch back to your thing. So anybody that's sitting on the couch now has their back or their head, turned away from the people walking in. That's never really a good idea. And it sort of just blocks the flow of people being able to come in from the hallway or the kitchen or front door, wherever they're coming in, entering into the living room. It just sort of blocks them off from really getting into the living room properly. Orienting your space. I know we're not even talking about the rug yet, but this matters because understanding how the flow of the room is going to work, where all the different furniture pieces are in that space to make sure they're all facing each other, making sure that they have the right amount of, they got a coffee table, a side table, whatever, to be able to put their drinks and comfortably use all the furniture in the space. Once you kind of understand that, the rug should make sense, right? And usually when the rug is placed wrong, it's because people don't fully understand the flow of the room, or they haven't actually really created that conversation area for people to actually live in. So let the furniture and designing the space plan around those furniture pieces so that everybody's facing each other and having a good time, the rug will make sense. Now you got two options for the rug. If you want a rug that's big enough, you don't want to carpet the whole room, but you want the size of the rug to roughly be so that all the chair legs can fit on the rug. That's especially true for a really large or grand room. If you're in an apartment or a smaller living room, and then having the front two legs of the furniture on the rug is going to be the best bet for you. Don't have anything really super small. It always looks stinky and weird. So that also, the size also does sort of determine the orientation of the rug as well. Okay, next up is going to be too much furniture. We like furniture. Furniture is good, right? We like it. We've got couches, we've got side tables. They're all super fun, sure. But sometimes when I go into a space and I'm overwhelmed because there's just too much furniture, it feels visually heavy and cluttered. And yes, dare I say, also makes a place look a little bit cheap. Sometimes having the right amount of furniture that is a right size and appropriate for the space that you have is the right idea. So sometimes you see 4 armchairs, 2 sofas, 6 side tables. We got a couple of ottomans. We've got some coffee tables. We've got a bookcase over in the corner. We've got one of those little blanket ladders in the corner. And it becomes a lot, and it's just visually heavy and oftentimes not comfortable to sort of move around. And that really is what is making the space feel really cluttered and sometimes just really, really cheap. It becomes really overwhelming, it's not comfortable, and I'm not saying everybody needs to be a minimalist, okay? I'm not saying everybody needs to go out there and take out all of their stuff and just be left with like, 1 chair and 1 sofa and maybe a wood pallet and call that a coffee table. I'm not talking to be that kind of a minimalist, okay? I'm not just saying you have to have like this little art gallery moment. I'm just saying that it should have the appropriate amount of furniture. Now it's hard because I'm on the internet talking to a bunch of people. I can't tell you exactly how much furniture there is, but if you're feeling like you got to shimmy your way through to get between coffee table and the side tables and the couches and people don't necessarily, it feels a little crowded and you feel like you've got a little bit too many furniture pieces going around, curate that a little bit and take some of them away. Oftentimes it's the tables where people run into problems. Seating is chunky enough that it usually takes up the appropriate amount of space, but sometimes people, I think, get a little overwhelmed and a little overzealous with those side tables and coffee tables and ottomans and things where you just have extra furniture pieces that are hanging around. And sometimes that just makes the space feel really heavy and cluttered, difficult to navigate, and yes, a little bit cheap. Places that don't look cheap always have the appropriate amount of space and some breathing space so that people can fully navigate it and it's very comfortable. Okay, next on my list is gonna be cheap polyester pillows. Gosh, did I fluff my pillows? I should do that in this video because Lord knows I'd hear the end of it. I already have people people that freak out when my pillows aren't appropriately fluffed before I film. Here's the thing with cheap pillows, okay? Sometimes when I'm talking about really cheap pillows, by the way, there's some great pillows that are out there that are cheap, are actually like inexpensive, but they don't feel cheap, right? Like I like the Sonella from Costco. I don't buy a lot of decor from Costco. I've gone on a rant before about that one, but IKEA, right? IKEA's got some great ones, right? And like, so you don't have to spend a lot. I would say that go cheap on the cushion cover more than the insert. And that might seem counterintuitive to a lot of people because they're like, but the insert you don't see. It's all about you see the cover. So what if I got like a cashmere cover over top of a really cheap polyester insert? I would say you're better off getting a cotton polyester $10 from IKEA cover over top of actually a little bit more of a luxurious down-filled or plush sort of insert. Because the insert is what's going to give that pillow enough sort of room to be able, you're gonna be able to sink into it. Let's call that sinkability. If you're able to put your elbow on it, it just sort of like sinks into place. You're able to fluff it. It's choppable, although you don't have to do the chop if you don't want to, but it molds and forms to what you want it to do. The poly, they're almost like outdoor pillows that you see that people have, right? Or like if you don't have the insert and they're not separate, they're sold usually all in one. Usually with this variety, it's where you put it in and then it just springs back into its shape immediately. They don't have sinkability, right? They'll squish into the size of a tennis ball, but then they will bounce right back to their full form within seconds. Those are the types of pillows that I just feel like are really, really cheap. They never look good because they don't have, you can't mold them. They never have any shape. So they're always that springy sort of variety, and they're never great on the couch. They never look great on the couch. They never look great to use. They never look great to really feel. But again, if you're gonna go inexpensive, and I'm all about that, then there's so many good ones that are not that expensive. Yes, you can buy a $200 cashmere cover for your pillows, or you could buy $10, $15 ones from IKEA or Target or whatever you so choose, Amazon, what have you, and those are really great too. But the inserts are really where it's at. That's actually what's going to give you the shape and the plushness that you're gonna want from your pillows. So no more cheap pillows. We're done with the cheap pillows. Yeah, definitely get the ones where you've got a really good insert. That's gonna go a mile. That's gonna do you favors compared to the polyfill one. Okay, and then my next tip for you all is going to be mismatched lighting temperatures, or just in general, the hospital lighting. I know you've been on my channel for, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not, you're just could he shut up about the lighting temperature? No, I will not, because I go for walks in the evening and I will look at people's houses because I'm creepy like that, and I see everybody's got those white hospital lighting, and I'm like, another person hasn't seen one of my videos. Okay, there's a lot of people that haven't, so I'm just gonna keep talking about it because no one likes the white blinding lighting, okay? It never looks good. It's not flattering. Everybody looks like trash. No one looks good. It causes awful shadows. It makes everybody look sickly and gross. And there's a reason why they have them in hospitals and garages and not in people's homes. They're not meant for people's homes. Go with a nice, softer, warmer light in general. And for the love of all that is holy, do not put mismatched color temperatures. What does that mean? It means you've got a warm light sitting next to a cool light, and oftentimes they're in either the same room or in neighboring rooms. They never look good, okay? You're gonna wanna get something a little bit warmer, something that's actually meant for humans. Again, you can get something that is a little bit on the daylight side if you so choose. You can get something really warm, you can play in the 2700, 3000, that's fine. We're talking the stuff meant for garages. That's not the stuff that you need in your home. It never looks good, and it absolutely is headache inducing when I see two different lighting temperatures happen in the same room, where you've got a lamp with an orange glow and an overhead light that's white. Nothing will make your home look cheap more than that, to be honest with you, right? Lighting really is everything. And if you have that hospital lighting in your home, I don't care if you've gone to Goop and you've got whatever Gwyneth Paltrow has sold you this week, and you put it in your home. It doesn't matter, the cashmere whatever, the marble whatever, the travertine whatever, it doesn't matter. If you have white hospital lighting, it's gonna look like trash. I'm just gonna say it. That's just the reality of it all. It's gonna make your home look cheap. So definitely, I'm really on a rant on this one because, as I said, I know people are putting this hospital lighting in their home, and I need to change that. Get warmer lighting, make sure it's consistent. Whatever you choose to do, if you are a person who's well, I like it a little bit cooler, a little bit, whatever you choose, be consistent. Do it for the whole freaking house, except for the garage. That you can do what you want there, I don't care. But do that consistently. It's going to make your space instantly look better. And then from there, play with your pillows and all the rest of it, like I said in this video. But definitely do that one. Change out your lighting. Okay, so that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video and you didn't get too offended, even though people did get offended in the last one, but here I am still making videos, so it goes to show how much I care. Listen, I'm gonna link to that video, go check it out, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you, bye-bye.